The radio crackles, and suddenly, it's 1967. A song you've never heard stops you in your tracks. Catchy, magical, and gone in a flash. The 1960s were the golden age of one-hit wonders, when a single could launch a career, or be the only hit an artist ever had. So today, we're dusting off the vinyl to revisit 10 forgotten one-hit wonders from the 1960s. Number 10. 96 Tears by and the Mysterians. In the summer of 1966, a band with one of rock's most intriguing names stormed the charts with a sound that seemed to come from another planet. and the Mysterians, yes, that was their real name, emerged from Saginaw, Michigan with a garage rock anthem that became their calling card.
And when the sun comes up, I'll be on top. You be right down.
The band's backstory was as strange as their name. Frontman Rudy Martinez, who went by ? Claimed he was from Mars. But once that signature Vox Continental organ riff kicked in, it didn't matter. The song's raw energy and Martinez's soulful wail felt both primitive and otherworldly. Recorded in a small Michigan studio, the track captured the gritty essence of mid-60s garage rock, young musicians blending blues and soul through a rock and roll lens. It sounded like it could have been recorded in a basement, which only added to its power.
I'm way down here, wondering how I'm gonna get to you.
The band's style matched their sound: sunglasses indoors, secret identities, and an air of mystery. While they never matched the success of their breakout hit, its influence echoed through decades of garage and punk rock, proving one great song can still make history. Number 9. Incense and Peppermints by Strawberry Alarm Clock.
Little to win, but nothing to lose.
In 1967, as psychedelia swept across the American music scene, a band from Los Angeles with a fittingly whimsical name, Strawberry Alarm Clock, delivered a dreamy hit that captured the spirit of the times. The song was a happy accident, passed down from another band and reshaped with the clock's signature touches. A haunting flute line, swirling organ, and vocals that floated like incense smoke. It wasn't just the music, it was the atmosphere. Listening felt like stepping into a head shop or a velvet-draped lounge lit by lava lamps. Their moment came during the summer of love, when boundaries in music were dissolving and anything seemed possible. With their long hair and kaleidoscopic outfits, the band looked and sounded like they'd arrived from another dimension. Like many psychedelic acts, their fame was fleeting. As the cultural tide shifted in the early 70s, their sound faded. But for one luminous moment in 1967, Strawberry Alarm Clock gave a generation its dreamlike anthem. Number 8. Spirit in the Sky by Norman Greenbaum. Sometimes the most unlikely songs become the most enduring. In 1969, Massachusetts songwriter Norman Greenbaum was inspired by a gospel performance on TV to write his own spiritual song. Despite having no gospel background, the result was a one-of-a-kind rock gospel track. Fuzzed-out guitar, sincere vocals, and a message that felt genuine, even if Greenbaum admitted to botching some theology. That only added to its charm. At a time when rock was growing complex and ironic, this song stood out for its simple, heartfelt honesty. Its crisp production and unforgettable riff helped it soar to number 3 on the charts and stay in the public consciousness for decades through film and radio. Greenbaum never matched its success, but he didn't need to. He'd written a song that connected deeply with listeners and proved that lasting impact can come from the most unexpected places.
I never sinned, I got a
Number 7. In the Year 2525 by Zager and Evans.
In the year 2520.
Picture this. It's 1969, and two musicians from Nebraska are contemplating the future of humanity, while the world around them seems to be falling apart. The Vietnam War is raging, social upheaval is everywhere, and people are beginning to question whether human civilization can survive its own progress. Into this atmosphere of uncertainty came one of the most ambitious one-hit wonders ever recorded.
In the year 3535.
Denny Zager and Rick Evans created something that was part prophecy, part warning, and part science fiction novel condensed into a 4-minute song. Their vision of humanity's future was both fascinating and terrifying, tracking our species' evolution, or devolution, across thousands of years. Each verse jumped forward in time, painting pictures of a world where technology had replaced human agency and artificial intelligence controlled every aspect of existence.
Gonna need your teeth, won't need your eyes.
What made the song remarkable wasn't just its scope, but its execution. The production was stark and haunting, with minimal instrumentation that let the weight of the lyrics carry the emotional impact. Evans' vocals had a quality that suggested he was delivering a message from beyond time itself, like a cosmic telegram sent back to warn the present about the future.
In the year 5555.
The timing of the song's release couldn't have been more perfect. As Neil Armstrong was taking his first steps on the moon, radio listeners were simultaneously contemplating what humanity might become in the millennia that followed. The space age had officially begun, and suddenly, the year 2525 didn't seem quite so impossibly distant.
God is gonna shake his mighty head. He'll either...
The song's success was as meteoric as it was unexpected. It shot to number 1 on the charts and became a global phenomenon, proving that audiences were hungry for music that grappled with big ideas and existential questions. Zager and Evans found themselves thrust into the spotlight, trying to explain their cosmic vision to bemused television hosts and journalists.
Now it's been 10,000 years, man has cried a bill.
Like many prophetic works, the song has only grown more relevant with time, as our relationship with technology becomes increasingly complex, and the questions it raised about human agency and artificial intelligence feel more pressing than ever.
For what he never knew, now man's reign is...
Number 6. Time of the Season by the Zombies.
It's the time of the season.
Sometimes the most beautiful flowers bloom just as winter arrives. The Zombies' haunting masterpiece emerged in 1968, just as the British invasion was winding down and the band itself was falling apart. It was their swan song, a perfect encapsulation of everything that had made them special, arriving precisely when it seemed too late to matter.
What's your name? Who's your daddy?
The band had been making sophisticated pop music since the early 60s, combining British sensibility with American R&B influences, in ways that set them apart from their more famous contemporaries. While the Beatles and the Rolling Stones dominated the headlines, the Zombies quietly crafted some of the most beautiful and complex pop songs of the decade, always seeming to be just slightly ahead of or behind the prevailing trends. The song itself was a marvel of production and arrangement. Colin Blunstone's distinctive vocals seemed to float above the mix like morning mist, while the band created a sonic landscape that was both intimate and expansive. Every element, the subtle percussion, the tasteful guitar work, the perfectly placed backing vocals, contributed to an overall effect that was greater than the sum of its parts.
Has he taken any time?
What made the song particularly poignant was its context. The band had already broken up by the time it became a hit, making its success feel like a bittersweet epilogue to a story that had ended too soon. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Just as the Zombies were achieving their greatest commercial success, they were no longer together to enjoy it.
Tell it to me slowly, tell you why.
The song's exploration of change and the passage of time felt especially relevant in 1968. a year when it seemed like everything was shifting beneath everyone's feet. Its gentle melancholy captured something essential about that moment in history, when optimism and uncertainty existed in perfect balance.
Of the season for love.
Decades later, the song continues to resonate with listeners who discover it for the first time, proving that true artistry transcends the circumstances of its creation and the commercial considerations that so often determine a song's fate.
What you need to live.
Number 5. Crimson and Clover by Tommy James and the Shondells. In the autumn of 1968, Tommy James walked into a recording studio with nothing more than a title and a feeling. The words Crimson and Clover had been rolling around in his mind for months. He liked the way they sounded together, the way the colors seemed to complement each other in some indefinable way. What emerged from that session would become one of the most distinctive and innovative songs of the decade. The recording process itself was an exercise in creative experimentation. James and his band used the studio like an instrument, layering sounds and effects in ways that were just becoming technically possible. The famous tremolo effect on James's vocals wasn't planned. It happened when someone accidentally activated the tremolo on his guitar amplifier while he was singing. Instead of fixing the mistake, they embraced it, creating one of the most recognizable vocal effects in rock history. What made the song special wasn't just its innovative production, but its emotional core. Beneath all the studio trickery was a simple love song, sung with genuine feeling, and arranged with careful attention to dynamics and mood. The way the song built from its quiet beginning to its explosive finale created a sense of emotional journey that felt both intimate and epic. The band's story was itself a testament to the possibilities of the era. Tommy James and the Shondells had started as teenagers from Niles, Michigan, recording in local studios and pressing their own records. Their success proved that you didn't need to come from New York or Los Angeles to create music that could touch people around the world.
Crimson and Clover.
The song's success marked the peak of their commercial career, but it also represented something larger about the creative possibilities of the late 60s. It was a time when artists were pushing the boundaries of what recorded music could be, using the studio as a tool for creating sounds that had never existed before. In that context, the accidentally created tremolo effect became a perfect metaphor for the era's embrace of creative serendipity. Number 4. Wooly Bully by Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Long before anyone had heard the term world music, a singer named Domingo Samudio was creating his own unique blend of Tex-Mex culture, rock and roll energy, and pure showmanship. Performing as Sam the Sham, he wore elaborate turbans and robes, hauled his equipment in a hearse, and created music that defied every conventional category while somehow making perfect sense. The song that made him famous was as wonderfully eccentric as everything else about his act. Built around a simple but infectious riff and featuring lyrics that seemed to be part English, part Spanish, and part pure nonsense, it captured something essential about the joy of rock and roll. The story behind the song was appropriately mysterious. Some said it was about Samudio's cat, others claimed it referenced a childhood friend. But the truth was probably less important than the feeling the song created. What made Sam the Sham and the Pharaohs special wasn't just their music, but their entire approach to performance. In an era when rock stars were becoming increasingly serious and self-important, here was a band that embraced the fundamental silliness and joy of popular music. Their live shows were theatrical events that combined music, comedy, and pure spectacle in ways that influenced everyone from Alice Cooper to the B-52s. The The song's success in 1965 came at a perfect moment in American popular culture. The country was becoming more open to different influences and perspectives, and Sam the Sham's multicultural approach to rock and roll felt both exotic and completely American. It was music that celebrated difference while finding common ground in rhythm and melody. The band's brief moment in the mainstream spotlight ended almost as quickly as it had begun, but their influence on popular music extended far beyond their chart success. They proved that rock and roll was big enough to accommodate any vision, no matter how unconventional, and that authenticity mattered more than following established formulas. Their story became a reminder that some of the best moments in popular music come from artists who refuse to fit into predetermined categories, creating something entirely their own in the process. Number 3. Judy in Disguise, With Glasses, by John Fred and his Playboy Band.
Judy in the sky. Well, that's what you are.
Sometimes inspiration strikes in the most unexpected places. In 1967, John Fred Gourier was listening to the Beatles' Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds when he misheard one of the lyrics. What he thought he heard, Lucy in Disguise with Diamonds, sparked an idea that would become his biggest hit and one of the most playful songs of the psychedelic era.
Keep wearing your bracelets. And you rock.
The song that emerged was a perfect example of how American artists were interpreting and transforming the British invasion sound. John Fred and his band, based in Louisiana, took the basic template of a Beatles-style pop song and filled it with southern charm, clever wordplay, and a sense of humor that was often missing from the more serious psychedelic music of the time. The recording captured something special about the regional music scenes that were flourishing across America in the late 60s. While the major record labels were focused on New York, Los Angeles, and London, cities like Baton Rouge were producing music that was just as creative and innovative. John Fred's success proved that great songs could come from anywhere, as long as they connected with listeners on an emotional level. What made the song particularly endearing was its obvious affection for the Beatles, while maintaining its own distinct identity. It wasn't a parody or a copy, but rather a loving tribute that managed to be both respectful and completely original. The band's arrangement was tight and professional, with guitar work that complemented the melody without calling attention to itself. The song's brief moment at the top of the charts, it actually knocked the Beatles' Hello, Goodbye out of the #1 spot, felt like a perfect encapsulation of the democratic spirit of rock and roll. Here was a band from Louisiana beating the Beatles at their own game, proving that talent and creativity mattered more than geography or industry connections. John Fred's story became an inspiration for countless musicians in smaller cities and towns across America, showing them that they didn't need to move to major music centers to create something that could touch people around the world. Number 2. Hang On Sloopy, by the McCoys. In the summer of 1965, 5 teenagers from Union City, Indiana, walked into a recording studio and cut a version of an obscure R&B song that would become one of the most beloved anthems of the decade. The McCoys' version of Hang On Sloopy transformed a relatively unknown track into a rock and roll classic that captured the energy and optimism of mid-60s America. The original song had been recorded several times before, but the McCoys brought something special to their interpretation. Rick Derringer's guitar work was both powerful and melodic, while the band's harmonies gave the song a youthful energy that felt fresh and immediate. Their arrangement stripped away some of the song's blues elements and replaced them with pure rock and roll excitement. What made their success particularly remarkable was their age. The oldest member of the band was just 19 when they recorded their hit. They represented a new generation of musicians who had grown up with rock and roll, absorbing its influences and making them their own. Their version of the song felt like the sound of American teenagers discovering their own musical voice.
When Sloopy wears that red dress, yeah, you know it gives me the...
The song's success came at a pivotal moment in American popular music. The British invasion was in full swing, but bands like the McCoys proved that American rock and roll was far from finished. Their success, along with that of other young American bands, helped establish a new template for rock music that would influence the genre for years to come.
You belong to me.
The band's story was also a testament to the power of regional music scenes. They had started playing in small venues throughout the Midwest, developing their sound and stage presence through countless live performances. When their moment came, they were ready to seize it, proving that preparation and persistence could be just as important as natural talent.
And so I say now, hang on, Sloopy.
Their brief time in the spotlight burned bright but brief, like so many one-hit wonders of the era. But the song they created became a permanent part of American popular culture, played at sporting events, parties, and gatherings, wherever people wanted to celebrate the pure joy of rock and roll. Number 1. Come On Down to My Boat by Every Mother's Son.
Sits on the dock, fishing in the water,
In the kaleidoscope world of 1967, when every week seemed to bring a new sound and every month a new musical revolution, a band called Every Mother's Son emerged from New York with a song that perfectly captured the gentle optimism of the era. Their invitation to "Come On Down to My Boat" wasn't just a lyric, it was a metaphor for the entire spirit of the times.
Come on down to my boat, baby. Come on.
The band's story began in Greenwich Village, in the same coffee houses and folk clubs that had nurtured Bob Dylan and countless other artists who would go on to change popular music. But Every Mother's Son wasn't interested in the serious, political folk music that had dominated the village scene. Instead, they created something that was lighter and more whimsical, music that reflected the growing sense that the world was full of possibilities.
Come on down where we can play. Come on down.
What made their hit song so appealing was its complete lack of cynicism. In an era when popular music was becoming increasingly complex and self-aware, here was a song that offered simple pleasures, the invitation to escape from the everyday world and sail away to somewhere better. The melody was irresistible, the production was crisp and clean, and the vocals had a sincerity that made the fantasy feel attainable.
She smiles so nice like she wants to come with me,
The song's success came at the height of the Summer of Love, when the optimism of the counterculture movement was at its peak. People were genuinely believing that love could conquer all, that peace was possible, and that the future held nothing but good things. Every Mother's Son's gentle invitation to hop aboard their metaphorical boat felt like the perfect soundtrack to those dreams.
Come on down to my boat, baby.
The band's brief moment in the spotlight was typical of the era. They appeared on television variety shows, played at rock festivals, and found themselves thrust into a world they had never imagined entering. Like many one-hit wonders, they discovered that sustaining success was much more difficult than achieving it in the first place.
But she's tied to the dock and she can't get free.
But their song endured, becoming a time capsule of a particular moment in American culture, when anything seemed possible, and the invitation to escape to somewhere better felt like the most natural thing in the world. It reminded listeners that sometimes the most powerful music doesn't need to change the world. Sometimes it's enough to offer a brief escape from it.
Come on down where we can play. Come on down.
These 10 one-hit wonders are more than forgotten tunes. They're snapshots of a time when radio was unpredictable, and a single song could capture the spirit of the 60s, its creativity, optimism, and openness. What makes them compelling isn't fame, but the raw humanity behind them. Musicians who connected with listeners in one perfect moment. In an age of algorithms, these songs remind us that great music often comes from unexpected places and hits because it makes us feel. So next time you hear an unfamiliar oldie, listen closely. It might just transport you to a time when the radio felt like magic. If you enjoyed this journey through the forgotten corners of 1960s music, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. There are countless more musical stories waiting to be rediscovered, and we'll be here to help you find them. Until next time, keep listening to the music that moves you, no matter when it was made.